It is day one of Marvel Snap's new Thunderbolt season, and you may be asking yourself, what kind of decks would Baron Zemo or Red Hulk work well in? Well, look no further. I went ahead and compiled 11 example lists for you all from some of the top Marvel Snap creators and players out there. So you can go ahead and copy these lists directly from the links down below in the description, or you can stick around as we'll talk about some substitutions, some play lines, and what works well with these cards and why they synergize with Baron Zemo and Red Hulk, so you'll have a great understanding of how to make some brews of your own. This list right here is from the man, the myth, the legend himself, Attrix Coccia. If you don't know who he is, how? Attrix Coccia is the man, you guys. And this list right here looks like so much fun. We have all of the ways to be annoying and to be disruptive of our opponent. We've got Baron Mordo making something a 6 cost. We've got Cable stealing the cards. We've got Baron Zemo pulling them onto your side of the deck. Grandmaster to double up on one of those effects. Doc Ock just to completely dump their hand when their deck might be empty. They might not be able to draw a card. Their turn 6, they could literally have nothing to do, and you get to decide for yourself what to do with all of the options you have in front of you. So can I say that this is going to end up being one of the top tier decks of the season, a meta definer? I can't say that for any of the decks that we're going to cover today, but I will say this is going to be a fun one. Bringing it all the way over from Italy, we've got Attrix up next with a Baron Zemo Patriot list. I was not expecting to see Patriot on any of the lists today, but this looks fun, you guys, okay? So we have still the Brood, the Absorbing Man, the Patriot, the Doctor Doom, all standard stuff, right? But you're sprinkling in the Baron Zemo and the Mockingbird because all of those little broodlings are going to get us a discount on the Mr. Sinister clone. So we still get huge Mockingbird value. We can just go a lot of different ways. It's a super interesting list. We've got Vision for some flexibility. We're always going to play the Doom on 6. We don't have any kind of way to ramp Doom out early, but we take a little bit of disruption in Yondu, in Baron Zemo. We take just good solid stats in cards like the Brood and the Abs Man, and then Mockingbird following it up. And it just puts out consistent numbers with the hint of disruption to keep your opponents on their toes. If you are active on Twitch at all, if you've watched even like a single Twitch stream for drops, you probably have seen that gentleman's face right over there. That's Dera, and he's bringing to us a true mill list. Now, if you don't have a background in other traditional trading card games, you might not know what a mill list means, and that means we are quite literally trying to just mill off all of the cards from our opponent's deck. And in this list, we are not taking them off the card and into a graveyard, but we're just destroying them with Yondu. We're pulling them into our hand with Cable. We're pulling them onto our board with Baron Zemo or with Doc Ock. And then we are discarding the cards from our opponent's hand in every way, shape, and form that we can disrupt our opponent's cards in hand, in deck, on the board. We're doing it with this list. Up next, we've got a list by a Brazilian player who goes by the name of Eva. Eva is consistently in the top 50, if not the top 10 players in all of the ladder. Now, this is a really, really good Marvel Snap player. Now, this list is using the Hood, Sentry, and Annihilus package. Those 3 cards are just such a solid combination, and it works so well where you can flex in a lot with those 3 cards. But this is the list we're looking at right now. You're probably starting to see a trend here. Zabu, Absorbing Man, Gladiator, Shang-Chi, a lot of really good staple cards that are working well with the Baron Zemo, and then we flex in other packages like we're doing now with the Annihilus package. I will say this is one I'm extremely excited to try out myself, so if you do have the pieces for this one, give it a shot, let me know what you think. And now we're looking at one of the more affordable and accessible lists in today's video by none other than Jeff Hoogland. Jeff is known for trying to make decks that aren't just chock full of all Series 5 cards, and this is a perfect example of that, as you see from the card series details right there. This one now we're working with a bounce package instead of some of the other stuff we've been seeing so far. We still have some of the disruption with the Gladiator, with the Baron Zemo, but not going full send on it there. We're missing Cable from this list. We're keeping the Yondu. We do have the Doc Ock for the disruption, but we're also using the Red Hulk now too. We're using both of the new cards and seeing how they work in tandem. Now, we still got solid numbers even outside of the Red Hulk. If you get a full value Hawkeye bounce, that can be a 7 or 10 power Hawkeye that's going down. That's a lot. So if you're out there and you're looking for one that's a little more accessible and you did manage to snag both the Baron Zemo and the Red Hulk, try this one out. Now, this one is a variation of a super unique destroy list that Ika has come up with. If you haven't heard on Ika, links will be down below. Check them out. But this list, we're utilizing the Shauna, the Squirrel Girl, and these extra other options to get a free Mockingbird early. We're using Killmonger and all of our other destroy cards to then actually wipe those out, so we make sure we have a free death and we boost up our own null. And now we're just adding in Baron Zemo as one more card to help do what this deck was already trying to do. Only now we're adding in the disruption factor on top of just generating other cards to our side of the board that we can then destroy to boost up null, make death cheap, and play a free Mockingbird. So if destroy is your thing and you have a lot of those cards accessible to you, check this list out. I think you might enjoy it way more than you thought, because I know I felt that way, and then when I finally tried it out, I was like, oh, this is actually pretty fun. Now, if you grabbed yourself Corvus Glaive last season and you are a hella enjoyer, not the hella enjoyer, but a hella enjoyer, this list could be the one for you. Now, we're leaving Baron Zemo behind for this one. We're just focusing on the Red Hulk, using it in a deck that already has performed pretty well. But we are leaning fully into the ramp and the Sandman. Now, with everyone trying to play so many cards, Sandman coming out when you're not expecting it is hugely disruptive. We can get Sandman out on turn 4 with Electro. We could get it out a turn early if Corvus Glaive doesn't discard it. We could even wave into Sandman if we really want to. And then we just have the big numbers and the cheeky leader, the Odin on top of the Doctor Doom. We got a lot of ways to still put out solid numbers when our opponent can't do a lot. Next up, we're going back overseas. We're going over to France, and we're looking at an Owiiiii deck. If you don't know who Owiiiii is, another amazing Marvel Snap player who also does stream the game, but you might need to know French to follow along. But Owiiiii built for us on day 1 a Loki, Werewolf, Bounce, Baron Zemo deck. Yeah, that's a mouthful. But I don't know about you, but I have missed playing Werewolf by Night. The nerf going up to 4 energy sucked. I was not a big fan of that. I miss putting Werewolf by Night into Silver Surfer decks, but if this is the best we can come up with right now, I'm about it. I'm here for it. I want to give it a try. As you can see from the list, the same staples. They're showing up everywhere, you guys. This is a perfect example of how you take some core cards, Yondu, Cable, Zemo, Gladiator, even Shang-Chi, and you build around them, and then you make the deck your own. You have surprise factors that your opponents are not going to see coming, and then you just have fun. What I like about this list in particular is that you get to use Spider-Ham, Iceman, Nico, Yondu. You get their effects down early, you pop them back into your hand, and then you Loki them away. It's a really nice way to recycle these cards and use their good effects, and then get your opponent's deck and play it for cheap. Definitely arguments to be made for playing your Werewolf by Night on turn 4 instead of your Loki, especially if you've got another 1-drop in hand. So you could play Werewolf by Night on 4, you could play a 1-drop on 5 and your Loki on 5 and get 2 bounces on your Werewolf before you Loki away your hand. Could be fun, could be nice. I am a Loki enjoyer, so this one's another one probably at the top of my list to try out as soon as I can get back to climbing. Bringing it back around to more accessible and affordable decks is King Tuccrr himself. If If y'all don't know who Tuccrr is, check him out over on Twitch whenever you can. Tuccrr just went full time, so we're going to be seeing content all over the place from the king. Now this deck right here is a really cool take on an old classic. We used to have Shuri Sauron, but we're taking out the Sauron and we're using some other cards to still get those massive numbers and maximize a Taskmaster play. What's really cool here with the Hope Summers, again, if you didn't get Hope Summers, I would be pinning that in your token shop as soon as you can. If you have Hope Summers down, you play the Shuri on top of Hope Summers on turn 4. On turn 5, you got that 6 energy. You can slam a Red Hulk, which maybe got a few boosts, +4s from earlier in the game. That becomes whatever that number doubles into. You can Taskmaster it on the last turn. You also have the option then to play Shuri, even if you don't have the Hope Summers down. Float all of turn 5 and then slam your She-Hulk down for 20 and Taskmaster that somewhere else. Could be nice, could be fun. Armor kind of goes without saying of why that's included. Sunspot makes sense for the play line that we just described, where you're floating turn 5 so that you can play your She-Hulk and Taskmaster on turn 6. Chavez just adds a little bit more oomph to whatever card hopefully you're going to double up with Shuri, but that's another one where if you want to add in something for personal preference, you like the Spider-Ham, you like the Iceman, you even want to add in Nebula so that you can be working more power into other lanes, go for it. Overall though, if you are the type of player where you like decks that are just consistently good and that are very clear when you've got winning lines and when you may need to retreat, this could definitely be the deck for you. Sarah Surfer fans, rejoice, you have yet another option at your disposal. This one's coming to you straight from YoWoodyMJ. YoWoodyII is another one of those players that is consistently in the top 100, top 50, top 10 Marvel Snap players on the ranked leaderboard. Woody is also highly experienced on the tournament side of things that focus on conquest game mode, and I for one always love seeing what Woody has cooked up, and this one right here seems like a banger. Are we really doing anything special, anything too massively unique here? Let's be honest, no, not really, but we're putting out solid, consistent numbers. We talked about it earlier with the Patriot list that we looked at. When you have Brood, when you have Absorbing Man, when you have these cards that generate other tokens on the board, you're discounting your Mockingbird, and a 2-9, a 1-9, a 0-9 is disgusting. Sarah still lets you have these massive turn 6s where you could play a Brood, you could play a Shaw, and you could play a Silver Surfer and just see the numbers skyrocket. And we're still running a bit of the disruption with the Baron Zemo and the Gladiator. Killmonger has his offensive capabilities as well to really disrupt whatever 1-drops your opponent has put down on the board. So we do love that right now, especially as we are seeing some of those other bounce lists come down. And if you can clear out their bounced cards before they get a chance to get them back in the hand, that can be really impactful. But overall, solid Sarah Surfer list, give it a try. And the last list we've got for you today is coming straight at you from ZalSnap, not Sal, Zal, who is now full-time in content creation, absolutely crushing the game. And this list right here might be the one for you. Now, it's a weird thing to me that in a lot of the Facebook groups specifically, High Evo is hated. It gets referred to as like the Fisher Price, the kiddie deck. Now, I don't really understand it. I think High Evo decks still require a good amount of skill and a good amount of quality decision making based off of all of the millions of different variables that happen in a game of Marvel Snap. But if you're like me and you're a fan of High Evo, this one seems awesome. We are just fully leaning into big fat Hulks when slamming them down, and I can't wait to give it a try. It also doesn't hurt that we got that free Cyclops variant, the Phoenix Force Cyclops, and now I get to play it, so hell yeah. But this deck isn't really anything new. A lot of you have probably seen the She-Not deck before, but all we're really doing is taking out the Infinite. It can be a little inflexible at times, especially if you're not running the War Machine, and we're just replacing it with Red Hulk, something else that could easily get over 20 power. We give ourselves the protection with Chiara, we give ourselves the extra energy generation that this deck loves with Hope Summers. I mean, what's not to like? If you want a more full-length video on the deck, check out ZalSnap's YouTube. I'm sure there's one up there already. But that's it for the video. Short, sweet, and to the point. And if you like this kind of thing, if you want to see more day one release decks so you have options, you know what you can just try out right from the get-go, let me know in the comments down below. Hit the like, hit the bell button, hit the subscribe. You know how YouTube algorithm works by now. I don't have to tell you. But either way, if you made it this far in, I appreciate you greatly, pal. Much love. I'll see you in the next one.